Good evening, friends of Jeopardy! This is hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel, episode number 37, presented by the JeopardyFan.com. Once again, I am Andy Saunders, and I am going to be moderating the discussion tonight. We have a small but mighty panel this evening. So I will get to the introductions right away. First up, we have the founder of the Jeopardy Fan and chief editor as well of the JeopardyFan.com. Welcome once again to Jeanie Kenkel. Thanks for being able to join us, Jeanie. We also have a couple of people who have been on very recently. From last Wednesday's episode, Brian Fodera. Thanks for joining us, Brian. And also, super champion joining us once again, Kerry Greene. Looks like her video has managed to cut out on us. We always run. Oh. Kerry, are you still there? Can you hear us?
I'm here.
Okay, let's try that again. Okay, well, she's here. That's helpful. So at least she'll be able to talk. Hopefully the video works out for her. So
yeah, now the blue light's on. Does that mean I'm on again?
Trying again. We'll be fine. I'm not too worried about it. Normally we open with This Week in Jeopardy history, but we're not going to this time. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. We're moving to a different part of the panel. First up, though, some news out of Jeopardyville. If you are a fan of Sports Jeopardy, they are doing an online test today for Season 2 of Sports Jeopardy. Once again, that happens on Crackle. But the online test is 3 Tuesdays from now. That is May the 19th, 7 p.m. Pacific. That is Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, and there is just one test. There aren't three. There is just one test. Let me turn that volume back up there. Okay. So let's get straight into the discussions. Greg Soroka, another super champion. What do we think, Greg? Does Greg have a secret as to how he's doing so well? Do we know? Do we have an idea?
I can say from.
Go ahead, Brian.
Sorry. Oh, I can say from playing against him that I thought he was very composed. He was very focused, and I think that had to help. I mean, obviously he knows a lot, and he's very savvy with his wagers, and he knows the strategy. But he was very calm and present in a way that I think had to help him. I know, for me, I made mistakes that were compounded by the pressure and the sort of lack of focus that created. And he seemed to always have his wits about him.
Mm-hmm. Jeanie, you were going to say something? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kerry.
No, that's okay. Jeanie, go ahead.
Oh, I just wondered if he's still winning. I missed Friday and Monday.
Well, he won on Friday. I haven't seen Monday's episode yet, so...
Okay.
I can tell you...
Do we not want to give it away?
I'd certainly appreciate it, but yes, I haven't seen... I was in Niagara Falls all weekend playing Scrabble, and so I was not able to... watch Fridays until about 20 minutes ago, or 40 minutes ago at this point, and then I have once we're done tonight, I will watch Mondays.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Yeah, I was taken by he grew in strength as his games went on, and comfortable as he kept playing.
I would definitely agree with that, and I mean.
Although he struggled in his 7th game on Friday and had to kind of pull it out at the last minute.
That's true, and tonight was quite a competition as well. So but at some point that has to happen, right? You can't just play forever. I mean, with 3 notable exceptions.
Yeah, and he was playing his 5th game of the day in the game I'm referring to. But I mean, I give him credit for the way he came back. I mean, it would have been easy for him to say, you know what, I've had a nice run here, and I'm going to go home to Denver and come back to the Tournament of Champions, when he was at $0 in the Double Jeopardy round on Friday, and yet he pulled it out against the tough opponent.
I mean, Greg is a chef. Do we think that maybe there's some sort of correlation between the high pressure world of a restaurant kitchen and doing well, keeping your composure on the Jeopardy set?
I don't know. I hadn't thought about that before. Possibly. I think it's a stressful job, from what I can understand.
I think it's really varies depending on the individual. That may be something that may be an aspect of his personality that has allowed him to succeed both as a chef and as a Jeopardy contestant. But my career was as a litigator. I've been in trials and courtrooms under a lot of pressure and stress, and not blundered in the way that I blundered on Jeopardy. So I mean, I probably cared more about the result in Jeopardy than I did on some of those trials, sadly. But
by the way,
how long were you a lawyer?
What's that?
How long were you a lawyer?
How long were you?
I practiced about 9 years, and then I left in January.
Oh.
How far along is the book coming?
Not too far along. I have a lot of research that I have to do, and so I had been planning to take some time at the beginning, right after I left my job, to sort of organize my life a bit and decompress, and then ended up getting the call for Jeopardy the day before I left my job. So
Whoa.
I spent about the first month of my sabbatical here preparing for Jeopardy. Something I actually had never planned to do if I ever got on Jeopardy. I really didn't plan to do any preparation, but then I found myself with a calendar that was wide open and realized, all right, I might as well. And I actually learned a lesson that's probably valuable to people who get on Jeopardy in the future, which is that it was kind of a waste of time to prepare in terms of studying information, whether it was trying to learn new things or reinforce things that I knew, to some degree. At least I spent too much time on that aspect of it, and it would have behooved me to spend more time than I did on the gameplay aspects and wagering scenarios. I spend time on that, but I should have spent more, because I think had I done so, I would have internalized that more, and so I wouldn't have forgotten the situation I was in when I had a choice to make in the Daily Double. Nothing came up on the game board that was something that I had studied, a fact that I didn't previously know. It was either stuff that I knew or didn't know, no different than started. But the wagering, I definitely would have been well served to have.
Now, just before I continue, I failed to mention this off the top. If you're viewing and you have a question or comment for anyone on the panel tonight, you are welcome to tweet at us using the hashtag #JeopardyLivePanel. I have my tweet deck open, and I see the tweets as they come in, and then I will, of course, relay them onto the broadcast. Our first one actually has to do with Brian. It's from Megan Burns. She was on our panel recently, but I just saw Brian Fodera's Millionaire clip. How has he not aged in 15 years?
Yeah.
That's very kind of you, Megan, and hello. We met back in March. In connection with that other show that shall remain nameless. But all I can tell you is, believe me, I've aged, and especially on the inside. Being on these shows has probably aged me more than I feel like 22 minutes of Jeopardy, had the same effect as 4 years in the presidency in terms of how much I felt like it aged me. But I will say, I do have to say. Megan said she watched my Millionaire clip. I encourage anyone out there to look. There are actually clips, because the little known fact, I actually went back on Millionaire about a year and a half later and actually won some money. So I'm not just the $100 loser. My Millionaire experience actually was quite a hilarious and surreal saga that I'm happy to talk about it to whatever extent you're interested, but it was a really wild ride because the show was so visible at the time that I had my catastrophe, and a lot of other things came out of that that I never would have anticipated.
Okay. do you want to talk maybe a little bit about those things? Because that actually sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about it, but I don't know what to ask because I haven't seen it. So.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it, and I just didn't know, time constraints and what your agenda was. But yeah, so
I'd love to hear about it.
In a nutshell, I went on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in January of 2000 and missed the $100 question. It's a question about a nursery rhyme. At the time I was 24 years old. I didn't have any kids, and unfortunately, most of the $100 questions have no plausible wrong answers. But mine had a plausible wrong answer. At least it seemed plausible to me, and lots of other folks I talked to after the fact, I fell for that and didn't ask the audience or anything, and walked off in ignominious shame as only the second person to miss the $100 question on the show. But the first person who missed the $100 question had done it at a time when the show hadn't really caught on yet, and I happened to do it at the zenith of the show's popularity. So I became a little bit of a minor celebrity and started getting calls from all these television and radio shows, and ended up doing a lot of press. So, I went on about 80 radio shows around the country, and they would all say, well, we want to give you a chance to redeem yourself, and we'll ask you a question. If you get it right, you'll win $100, and took advantage of that. And then Entertainment Tonight, and I was in Entertainment Weekly, and it's a night show called Today Show called. But the biggest thing was the Rosie O'Donnell show. At that time, Rosie was a big fan there and would talk about it all the time on her show. And she started talking about me and saying that she wanted to get me on her show to demonstrate that I wasn't as dumb as I looked on TV. And so she brought me on her show along with the other gentleman who had missed the $100 question back the previous summer. And she interviewed us, and she then asked us 10 trivia questions to win an undisclosed prize, which we were led to believe was something along the lines of a small household appliance like a microwave. By the way, we were the top billed guests on the show, ahead of Tobey Maguire, so that was quite a thrill. So we answered the questions, and the prizes that we won were new cars. She got us new cars, which was amazing. At the time, I was driving a 12-year-old Chrysler LeBaron that had all sorts of problems, and this was like a miracle that I now had a new car. So after that happened, I then got a call from Rosie's people a couple of days later. This is where it starts to get really surreal and bizarre. And they said that they had received thousands of emails and letters or whatever from women who had seen me on the show, and I'd gotten off some good lines. And the power of television is very great. Plus, the audience, I think, is a lot of shut-ins and invalids and lonely, desperate women who would find me attractive. So she said, we have all these women who wrote in and we want to bring you back and do a dating game. We'll pick 3 of these women. And she said, come on and do it. We'll give you a good prize. So I said, well, she does give good prizes. I went back. I was a little reluctant, embarrassed, but I went back on. I was living in Boston at the time. She came from New York, so I went back down to New York, which is where I'm from, incidentally. And did this dating game. That was kind of a disaster, but I won a trip to the Caribbean. So,
ooh,
yeah, pretty cool. So, to get to the final chapter of this saga, about 16 months later, in May of 2001, I got a call from the people who wants to be a millionaire saying, by this point in time, the ratings had started to sag, and they were kind of coming up with gimmicks, celebrity and that sort of thing. And so their gimmick that they were going to do was they were going to bring back all of the people who had, at that point in time, gotten to the hot seat without, this is when we had the fastest finger, so gotten to the hot seat but not won any money. And by that point in time, there were 13 or 14 such people who had missed one of the first 5 questions, although still only 2 super geniuses who had missed the very first question. And they said, would you be interested in being a part of that? Of course. They said, we're going to call it the return of the $0 winners. Is that okay with you? I was like, you call it the Big Losers tournament. I don't care what you call it. Just get me in it. So I went back down, and I again was the first person into the hot seat for the second time. And so the first time around, I was probably a little overconfident and didn't use a lifeline when I probably should have. Second time around, because of the experience the first time, I was terrified and it really felt like, if I don't win money again, if I miss one of these other questions again, I probably have to kill myself just for the sake of the gene pool I allowed. So there was a lot more pressure. And as a result, I used a lifeline early on in the $500 question I do, and it kind of cost me. But eventually, I got to the $16,000 question. The question was, again, this was in May of 2001, so the question was current events question at the time. It said, in April of 2001, physician Ronald Chiminski made headlines when he became ill where? And the choices were Mount Everest, the White House, the Space Shuttle Endeavour, and the South Pole. So I don't know if any of you guys remember this story. I didn't remember it then, and it only happened a month prior. But I just, I didn't vocalize any of this, but I thought I don't think it's Mount Everest because people get sick and die climbing Mount Everest all the time. I don't know why that would make news. I didn't think it was the White House because for what I did for my job at the time and also personal interest, I didn't think I would have missed that. And I didn't think it was the South Pole because there had been a female doctor who had breast cancer and treated herself at the South Pole, and they later made a TV movie about it, and that wasn't a month earlier, and her name wasn't wrong. So by process of elimination, I thought it must be the space shuttle, but I really didn't know. So I phoned a friend, and I asked the question. He immediately said, sounding with great confidence, it's the South Pole. And I had told all my phone friends that if I call you and there's time before the cutoff, give me some indication of why you say what you say. You can give me a percentage, you can tell me where you know it from, just something for me to go on. So he gave me the answer. I said, okay, why do you say that? Figuring he'd say, I saw it on the news, I read it in the paper, whatever. Instead, he just immediately started backtracking, and right before the call cut off, he just said, no, that's not it. Click. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not really sure what to do with that. I don't know whether he just panicked, didn't want the responsibility, or he looked it up online and saw that he was wrong, and he got cut off right before he said the right answer. I really didn't know what to do. So I had the 50-50 left. I used the 50-50. Sure enough, it left me with the South Pole and Space Shuttle. And at this point, I'm in such an emotional wreck experience that I was ready to get out of there. So I just said, you know what, I'm lucky you even had me back. I'm going to say the South Pole. That was my hunch originally, or the Space Shuttle. That was my hunch originally. And the chips fall where they may. Thanks for having me. And Regis said, is that your final answer? And I said, well, he sounded a lot more confident of his answer when he first said it than I am of my answer right now. At least that's what I said. But what I was thinking was, if I go with myself and I'm wrong, I only have myself to blame. But if I go with Bob, I can always blame Bob. So I did what nobody ever does, and I changed my answer to the South Pole, and it was the South Pole. So I got the 16,000, and then I walked away from the 32,000, and probably took 2 years off my life with the whole experience. Sorry for that monologue, but it's a lot. I was trying to compress 16 months of events into 15 minutes.
That was a fascinating story, I will say. So, I have a question actually for the full panel at this point, because I wouldn't mind involving Kerry in the discussion. She was sitting there very, very, very politely.
It's really interesting, because I've never been on any other game show. So.
Yeah.
I would trade places with Kerry in a second, I assure you.
Oh.
But yeah, speaking of that, I mean, the month of April, we had. It was pointed out. I mean, we had 3 separate Super Champions, no overlap over their runs either, but 3 different Super Champions in the month of April, between Kerry, Alex Jacob, and now Greg. Now, it's very unusual to have so many Super Champions compressed into one time frame. Do we have any idea as to what that is? Are we just one of those things, or are we going to be seeing a lot more, 6- and 7-time champions as we move forward?
I have no idea. I'm taking all the credit for it. Like, I just left all this good luck sitting around the set, but I really don't think that's the actual answer.
Any insight, Jeanie?
Maybe we'll have a TMC dinner. You know, that's okay with me.
Just as long as they don't decide to, do something like tape while I'm in Australia or something. But
Oh yeah.
I suspect. Oh, go ahead.
You were going to say something. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I suspect that it's randomness that this happened, but I do wonder, because there was no test in January, no online test. I wonder if they were having to sort of, in casting these episodes that taped in February, reaching into the pool maybe for people that they wouldn't have ordinarily reached in for. Because I know Alex Jacob, for example, is somebody who's been in the pool for a long time and not selected, as had I. And I don't know what their thought process is, but maybe there were people that they sized up, not me, but Alex or Greg or Kerry, people who sized up as potentially really strong players that they were avoiding for one reason or another, and then they found themselves having to call people because they didn't have a new pool of candidates from the new test. I have no idea. Relation.
Now, on the flip side of that, with the Battle of the Decades last year, I know that took 5 weeks out of the pool, out of the regular pool. Otherwise, so that, I mean, that could have been a matter of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But,
True. And the fact that they chose me suggested that, contrary to my theory, they're actually scraping the bottom of the barrel. So.
Okay. That's one way of looking at it. Now, Brian, obviously you're quite strong in Learned League. Do you think being a part of Learned League helped or hurt you with Jeopardy?
With getting onto the show, or the performance on the show?
Performance on the show.
I don't know. I mean, it's such a small sample size that I can't really point to anything that that probably would have been any different. I don't think there was anything I answered that I learned as a result of being in Learned League that I didn't otherwise know. I mean, maybe had I had the opportunity to be on more shows, that might have happened. But yeah, I can't really point to anything, probably one way or the other, from the Learned League experience that helped. If there had been a classical music or art category, something that's not. I think we lost Jeanie.
She'll come back.
So I think if there had been a category that's relatively weak for me, like art or classical music, where I've learned something as a result of Learned League that I didn't know before and then had been asked about it on Jeopardy, it might have helped, but there really wasn't anything like that in my episode.
Now, obviously, other than the buzzer, what differences would you say there would be between the two formats?
Well, Learned League, I would say, is more difficult. Jeopardy doesn't tend to go as deep in a lot of topics, a lot of categories, as Learned League does. Although Learned League, I think, is a little bit. Maybe they don't go as deep in certain categories as others, but the buzzer is everything. I mean, the buzzer is everything in the wagering aspect. And I guess there's an analogy between the wagering in Learned League and the defensive point assignment in Learned League and the wagering in Jeopardy, the Daily Double. But I think if you get on Jeopardy, in general, all three players probably know most of the answers.
Mm-hmm.
What differentiates them is the ability to get in on the buzzer and then to, locate the daily doubles and maximize them, which is partly skill and sometimes just luck. I actually invited Greg onto Learned League, and he is signed up, so he'll be on Learned League this coming season. It starts in a few weeks. So it'd be interesting to see how he performs, on Learned League relative to some of the other players. But there are Scott Blish was on 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Jacob, I mean, an incredibly strong Learned League player. Very smart guy by all accounts. He's written thousands and thousands of quiz bowl questions, and just whatever reason, the game board, the buzzer, he had a tough day on Jeopardy. Very tough opponent, obviously, Alex. So I think they're different animals. I really do think they're different animals. You have all day, theoretically, to think about a Learned League answer. I rarely do that, but once in a while I will sleep on it, come back to it in the morning. But at least you have that opportunity. In Jeopardy, you have to decide before you've even done reading the question whether you're going to buzz in, because if you don't, somebody else is going to buzz in and you're going to miss your chance, even if you know it. So.
Now, what advice would you give to llamas or Learned League players with Jeopardy aspirations?
Well, I think if you're, you're somebody who's getting a certain percentage correct in Learned League, I don't know what that percentage is, but if you're probably situated to do well on the online test and then on the written test that you take in the audition. I think my advice, and I don't have anything really to back this up other than the fact that they picked me this time around. When I went into my audition, there were some interesting things that I noticed. For one, there were 20 people there. They were all men. The next group was 20. It was also all men. And in the group of 20 men that auditioned with me, at least 40% of them I think were attorneys, which I was at the time. I mean, technically I still am, but I'm trying not to be. And I noticed that a lot of them in their interviews talked about being attorneys and also talked about how much they loved trivia. And I sort of deliberately didn't talk about either of those things because I think they have a lot of attorneys and you have to differentiate yourself, and they have a lot of people who love trivia, and it doesn't really differentiate you from the group if you're telling them that you dominate your local pub quiz or you whatever it is. I think if you're on Learned League and you want to try and sort of parlay that, and if you're trying to say to them, hey, I'm in Learned League and I'm in the A Rundle, and so you should have me on Jeopardy, I don't think that's really what they're looking for. I think if you pass the test, then they want somebody who's interesting in other ways. And so my advice would be to probably play down your trivia fetish, ironically, since you're trying to get on a trivia show, and play up the things about you that are unique.
Okay.
That's completely different than my audition experience.
Sure.
It was very mixed as far as gender, and I interviewed in New York, so there were a lot of attorneys, but there were women. It was ethnically mixed. It was, a good sampling jobs, and really nobody talked about trivia. I was fascinated with everybody that I interviewed with, people who had hiked in the North Pole and had done all these amazing things, and I left there thinking there is no way on earth they're going to want me to come back. I have the most boring life of anybody I've ever heard. So I don't have a good sense of what they're looking for at all.
Okay, that's it. Again, actually, I'm honestly surprised that they'd have 2 consecutive auditions of entirely men from Brian's story, but I guess that's what you get with the random draw. But let's see, what else do I have? I suppose I normally talk about beer at some point during the panel, so I might as well talk about that. I don't have a bottle to hold up or anything because I had this one at the pub quiz I hosted a few hours ago. But so my craft beer choice of the evening to highlight is the Suffolk Street Session Ale from Guelph's Royal City Brewing Company. First time I featured one of the locals one of my local breweries. There's actually quite a few craft breweries in Guelph these days, but the Suffolk Street Station Ale, it's it's a special bitter, so about just over 4%, but it's not too hoppy, and it's kind of a darker, a little bit darker, kind of an English special bitter, and I enjoyed it. Royal City has some good stuff. They've just opened about a year ago. They have a dry hopped pale ale, also they've called it's a stout. It's called 100 Step Stout, and a smoked honey lager as well. But so plenty of stuff. I know I'm always interested in trying new craft beers. I was actually disappointed. I went to a different city before I went to Niagara Falls. I was in Mississauga this past week, and I was quite disappointed in the selection of craft beers at the store I went to. So I suppose I'm going to check once again, and then not too many people talking to us tonight on #Jeopardy Live Panel. Now, Kerry, you were on CBC in Prince Edward Island recently.
I was.
think since the last time you've been on. Do you want to talk about how that went?
Well, I mean, it was great. They were really, supportive and wonderful, and just thrilled that I had a connection with the island. But the reason that I got on the radio there is because I have a friend, PEI, and she has a friend who works for the CBC, and she thought it would be a great idea. So let me take a scene from the Pearl. One of our favorite restaurants. It's awesome, and it was a lot of fun being on the radio there. I have all those friends there.
I think Kerry may have cut out there for a second.
I was afraid that I was the one that cut out. I'm like, oh no, not again. Oh, she's back.
Yay! Okay, she's back. Okay, good. So yeah,
Okay.
You were talking about the Pearl before you cut out.
Yeah. So I just Maxine hooked me up, and it's just a quick little interview, just kind of what my connection was with the island and how much time I spend there in the summers, and very nice to let all my friends in Canada feel connected to the whole process. I mean, they were all watching me if they could. Not everybody has a TV, but they were watching me when they could, and they were really supportive up there as well.
So when are you? I presume you're heading to Prince Edward Island at some point in the next couple of months, because
we're supposed to go. Yeah, we're supposed to go at the end of this month, but 2.5, 3 weeks ago, there was still 6 feet of snow on our road, so I'm not sure we'll be getting up there until June. We'll see. If the plumber can get out there and open it up, then we'll be going.
Okay. Now, Jeanie, you have some questions for Brian, so I'll give you an opportunity to ask those.
I just wondered what the subject of your book was.
Oh, well, it's a sort of sociological and cultural topic, I guess. I'm not sure how much I want to talk about it publicly.
Okay. I wondered if maybe you didn't want to.
I mean, in very broad strokes, it's an examination of the ways in which people have a tendency to extrapolate from their own experiences and the experiences of people similarly situated to them and their peers, to draw conclusions about society at large and how that is a sort of dangerous thing to do, and then to look at what the ways we might be able to mitigate against this natural inclination to avoid negative outcome, public policy and social outcomes. But in a way that's, I'm hoping to write it in a way that's sort of engaging and talks about pop culture and not in like a dry academic way. The working title of the book actually involves the television show NCIS. So
I just watched that tonight.
so I'm hoping to. I don't know whether there'll be copyright issues if I try and use the title I have in mind, but I think it's probably fair use or something. I don't know. I should probably ask an actual attorney. But anyway, that's a very broad nutshell version. But I have a lot of research to do to flesh it out and see if it's viable, and that's what I've only started to do. So Jeopardy,
okay.
Back to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. And I was going to ask if you were going to take the Sports Jeopardy test.
Yes, it's funny. I got an email from them last year when they first were casting about for the first season, because I was in the pool for regular Jeopardy, and they said, "Would you be interested in this?" And I said, "Yeah, definitely." Sports is sort of one of my areas. I actually worked for the Elias Sports Bureau for 6 years, which is the official statisticians of the four major professional sports. So, and so I. Yeah, I thought this would be great. And they said, "What city would you want to try out?" And I said, "Los Angeles, which is where I live." And I never heard another word from them. So I will take it. I mean, I'm not crazy about the format from what I've seen, but or the stakes, but it would be fun to do.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm jealous of you that you got to be on the expert show and I never got to be on it, so I think that's really cool too. And spelling, what a cool subject too.
Yeah, that was. I mean, how low can I go in quiz shows? I mean, $100 question, I lose to an expert in the Kardashians. I mean, I just find new and you just can't stop finding new ways to embarrass myself in game show settings. But spelling was fun, and I do think the degree of difficulty in my category was a little bit harder. I would have actually won, except for the final, they asked me to give like 6 answers to something. And
yes, I remember that.
5 of them. It was hard to even keep straight what I had already said. And one of the I gave was like actually, it was debatable, but anyway, it was fun to do. I know the guys who were putting that show together. It was fun to help.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, speaking of the pub, I wanted to hear about your party last week there, your viewing party.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's not clear. Jeannie's alluding to the O'Brien's pub quiz in Santa Monica, which I'm one of the quiz masters, and I've met Jeannie there a couple of times.
Yeah.
We always enjoy your visits.
Thanks.
So it worked out well, I guess, that my Jeopardy episode was on Wednesday, so we had a viewing party there in the next room at O'Brien's before the regular pub quiz, and we had a big turnout, and a bunch of people that I used to work with came out, and it was a lot of fun because, you're very, at least I felt very wary, and I had mixed feelings because you want to tell people that you're on. Obviously, if I had a friend who was going to be on television, I'd want to know about it, and I'd want to see it, but you also feel like they're all going to be let down and disappointed. And, to be in a room with them, watching them be disappointed was something that I was a little wary of, but it turned out to be a lot of fun, and people were really into it, and, when I would get the right answer, there'd be cheers, and they were booing great. I tried to tell them, it's a nice they were, they embraced him as the heel, and then when I actually did find that daily double at the end, and it looked for a moment like I might, snatch the victory from the jaws of defeat, there was a huge roar in the room, and it was a nice feeling, even though I knew this is not going to end well. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm really lucky to have, become a part of that community at O'Brien's. Because, I'm not somebody, even though I was on a very high-profile game show 15 years ago, I was largely unaware of this whole trivia subculture that exists, and until about 4 or 5 years ago, 5 years ago or so, and I started going to O'Brien's, and I've just met some of the most interesting people who've become some of my best friends, and really it's the focal point of the week. And then from that, there's so many other things that we do, whether it's going to Tacona in Las Vegas, or a couple of us went to Geek Bowl in New Mexico in February with people that, from other parts of the country who we met at Tacona, and World Quizzing Championship and all these things. And I didn't know any of this existed, until a few years ago, and it's a lot of fun.
Good. Well, I know of another show you could still be on that tapes in Los Angeles, and that's Celebrity Name Game. I brought that up a few times, but I love that show.
I just love the clip when the guy didn't know who Craig Ferguson was, even though he's the host of the show.
I missed that episode. Huh.
Yeah, like he was the name the guy had to come up with, and he's the host of the show, but the guy had no idea how to explain who he was.
Oh no! Wow.
You can't be right there.
So, at this point, I'll give you guys a couple minutes to think about if you have any questions for any other member of the panel. But at this point is when I'm going to go through the This Week in Jeopardy History segment. I'm actually going to keep it short because I could go through every year and talk about whatever tournament that Jeopardy happened to have during May sweeps. But it's like, yeah, because we're getting into sweeps week now, and so it's like, it feels like this week is that week of the year where it's like there's some celebrity tournament, a lot of college championships. But one thing I'm going to focus on, 1997, Jeopardy had its international tournament. They taped it in Stockholm. The winner was Canada's Michael Daunt. A few stories from it. A lot of the time, the Jeopardy, kind of blooper reel has the one clue from that international tournament final. I'm hoping to actually bring it up on the J Archive. Hopefully, J Archive will be nice. And yes, actually, it was in the second game of the final, Foreign Anatomy. If a Japanese Isha, doctor, asks you to stick out your shita, he means this. And poor Per Gunnar Hillesoy from Norway went for the behind, as opposed to the tongue, and of course, immortalized himself in the blooper reels of game shows everywhere. The other interesting thing I found about that tournament, the American representative, not Michael Dupay. In fact, they chose Gay Millette, who happened to really all she did was win 3 games right after the Tournament of Champions that year. And they picked her to be the American representative and not Michael Dupay, which I always found confusing, and I'm sure most longtime viewers of the show were wondering the same thing. I'm sure that's a question that will never really get answered, but that's kind of This Week in Jeopardy history. Does any member of the panel have any questions for any other members of the panel?
I have a question for Kerry.
Okay.
So, Kerry, obviously, I think it's pretty safe bet that you'll be in the Tournament of Champions. And are you doing anything at this point to prepare for that? Do you plan to do anything special to prepare for that? It's going to be an interesting group. I'm going to be torn. Like, I've got your co-panelist. I've got one guy.
I would love to for that.
I'm going to root for.
Am I still?
You're cutting.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have. Yeah, you guys are doing the same thing for me. It may be my computer, but I would love to have time to prepare. I just don't right now because I'm still kind of doing a lot of stuff in New Hampshire because of the publicity. Hopefully that will die down, and once I can get out of town to Canada a little bit this summer, I'm hoping to have more time, and I'll probably just kind of refresh my memory about certain areas that I feel weak in, and read kind of over the game boards from past games and things like that. But I'm not going to do anything high pressure. I got enough going on with other stuff. So
when do they take? Is it in October or so?
They have not told us, so it depends on when it will show, and everybody's speculating what sweeps it will be because it could be November or February or May, and I think they all work as far as my schedule with travel, so that would be great. But that's really what I'm hoping for right now, is just so that it doesn't conflict with anything else I've got going on. But I'm in contact with, a couple of people who will also be at the Tournament of Champions, and we're all kind of like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, well, what are you doing? And, a little one-upmanship. So we'll see.
Cool.
We have decided that Greg should cater the Tournament of Champions in the green room. That much we're all agreed on. So.
I'd like him to.
I want him to wear that same suit that he wore last week from Germany. I want him to wear that, or Austria, whatever it was.
I just wonder if he's got lederhosen to go with it. I'd really like to see the whole outfit, because that would be something.
What were you saying, Brian?
Oh no, I was saying that if you guys come for the Tournament of Champions and come to O'Brien's, as has happened in recent years, maybe Greg could cater the O'Brien's pub quiz because it'd probably be.
Yeah, let's put that guy to work. Yeah, I've already been told that O'Brien's is definitely a requirement, so that's in the plans.
Cool.
Oh, some other Jeopardy news I just noticed. Rocky Schmidt, supervising producer, will be live tweeting Jeopardy at 7 Eastern and Pacific tomorrow. So if you're interested in that will be happening.
Where is he on Twitter? What's his username?
Oh no, he's going to be on the @Jeopardy account.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And also I also want to congratulate Kristen Sauceville. She received an award from the Governor of Delaware over this past week. So she was honored by the state of Delaware. Her family got to meet the governor as well, and so congratulations to Kristen on that. She's been on our panel a few times, and next time she comes on, I'm sure I'll remember to ask her about her experience meeting the governor of Delaware. So, do I have any other questions at large from the panel?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, in that case, I'd like to thank everyone for being part of the panel tonight. Thanks for joining us once again, Kerry, and I always like having you on, and hopefully you'll be able to join us again soon, and
Sure.
either from PEI or before you leave.
You shouldn't rely on the internet up there.
Okay, but also thanks for being able to join us once again, Jeanie, and I was certainly cheering for you last Wednesday, Brian, and
Yeah.
thanks for joining us, and I have to say your stories were quite fascinating tonight.
Yeah.
I was quite glad you're able to join us. So
Yeah, I hope you'll be back too, Brian.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I know it might be a little tough to keep watching the show for. I might have to take a little hiatus right now. It's a little emotionally scarring when I watch it.
Okay, yeah. I get it.
yep, that makes perfect sense.
I'll be watching through the end of the week for sure because I actually have a friend who's on Friday, and I'd like to plug his appearance. That's the great Louis Vertel, a very funny man who is a Twitter account you should check out, and who is seriously a genuinely funny guy, and you should try and have him on a future episode. He would be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you give us his contact info for sure?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He's a genuine, actual, real, known personality. He's got a profile and everything.
Okay.
Cool.
Good to know. And also, in terms of the upcoming Jeopardy live panel, the next episode I will be taping live from Dallas, Texas, and NACWIT's Middle School National Championship Tournament. I'm going to see if I can wrestle together some Jeopardy alumni in Dallas this coming weekend, to tape Jeopardy live panel, and we shall see how that goes. Also, no. My own personal news. I don't need to talk about myself. That's okay. So.
Okay.
So on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in this evening. We had a few viewers on the watching us live. Also, you can go back and tune in later. But thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. And so. For everyone at thejeopardyfan.com, I am Andy Saunders. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great night.